This is Irving Dubois, Phineas and Ferb's friend, #1 fan, and personal creepy stalker, as well as an undercover agent, trained and sent by OWCA, the organization without a cool acronym, to spy on the two stepbrothers and infiltrate their friend group. All this, of course, behind Agent P's back. There's already somewhat of a fan theory out there on Irving getting involved with OWCA through his obsession with the boys, but it turns out they got it all wrong. It's literally the other way around. We've always thought this kid was a stalker out of pure obsession, but it turns out he's been working for someone else all along. All this thanks to his mysterious father and his involvement with the agency. But let's proceed one step at a time, shall we? Let's start with the basics. Over the course of the summer, we find out that Irving, that creep, placed countless spy cameras in Phineas and Ferb's house to film their every movement, and even planted motion sensors in their room to know when they're awake. Other than being utterly messed up, this also raises a question though. What else did those cameras record? Because with the Fletcher house and backyard under Irving's constant surveillance, it really wouldn't take long for the kid to also accidentally collect footage of Perry's secret agent life. If you remember, in Season 1's episode Traffic Cam Caper, OWCA faced an unprecedented risk when a city security camera recorded several of Perry's comings and goings over the summer, putting the organization's secret and Perry's cover at stake. So the platypus had to find and destroy the CD with all the evidence in it before the truth could get out. So if a random security camera across the street could catch Perry's activity without even trying, it would be ridiculous to assume Irving's extensive collection of spy cameras never even spotted him, especially given how careless the organization is as a whole.
What do you think? Too much?
So between Irving unveiling the secret and the fact that Season 4's episode Act Your Age establishes that 10 years into the future the kid will be working for the OWCA, fans put these two pieces of evidence together. They assumed Irving must have found out about the agency by accident through his obsession with Phineas and Ferb, kept learning more about it, and eventually weaseled his way into it over the years. But that can't possibly be the case. Because, let me ask you, when did Irving's fixation with Phineas and Ferb actually begin? It seems like a bit of a simple, harmless question, but do think about it. He's been obsessing over them ever since the first day of summer. But isn't that weird? Because if you remember, before that day, almost no one in town knew about the boys and their doings. We made it abundantly clear in my Jeremy theory. It was only thanks to the roller coaster and their next few inventions that they became famous in the tri-state area. Before that day, only their closest friends knew. Yeah, but Irving wasn't a friend of theirs yet. They didn't even know he existed back then. In fact, after spying on them for a while, he decided to reveal his presence in the episode Hide and Seek, so later on during the summer. Yet somehow he was already there spying on them on the first day of summer anyway. Somehow he's got pictures and videos of their very first inventions on his DVDs and his ultimate Phineas and Ferb digital scrapbook, the Upperfoods.
Upperfoods?
How could he have known about the boys even before the day of the roller coaster, their first quote-unquote public invention? Are you trying to tell me that on the first day of summer, the second the boys announced their roller coaster, Irving was ready? He had already plastered the entire backyard and several areas in town with cameras, surveilling the whole thing and taking photos of the roller coaster during the entire ride. It seems a bit improbable. How would the timing even work? No, he must have known in advance. He must have been tipped off by someone. But who? Well, it might have taken the rest of town a while to learn about the boys and their machines, but there is someone out there who could have known ahead of time. Why, it's the people at OWCA, of course. After all, they've gotten to learn all about the family over the 5 years Perry's been with them. So if someone would know before the rest of town, it would be them. Before we dive into the specific reason why OWCA would inform him and even help him out in his creepy endeavors, we should take a step back, because sure, that's a fun speculation and all, but we could use some evidence to back up this theory. And luckily for you, all we gotta do is go back to Irving's debut episode. Again, we're talking about the episode Hide and Seek. week. While Phineas and Ferb are at home with their friends, this random kid they don't even know introduces himself, coming out of literally nowhere, revealing that he's been sitting right next to the gang in plain sight for hours without anyone noticing. And it's also important to note that he only revealed his presence on his own terms. Then a few days later, we find out that he snuck into Linda's car at a gas station when she took the boys and their friends to the beach. We even find out he managed to cut a lock of Ferb's hair without him noticing. This kid is a natural at sneaking into places, going unnoticed, and he's an expert at using spy equipment, since he's been able to follow and document Phineas and Ferb's every invention without anyone ever seeing him. He's not just sneaky, he's got some serious spy training, a training he clearly already had before the day of the roller coaster. And curiously, it's not just him who boasts such a training. I want you guys to think of Irving's older brother, Albert. The guy keeps bragging about his fighting skills and his ability to spot lies, which he admittedly sucks at, but he seems to claim he's been trained in those fields. People even call him the truth detector, or so he says. But more importantly, in the episode The Dupe Side of the Moon, we learn that Albert owns a surveillance van disguised as an exterminator's truck with loads of monitors and high-tech equipment he seems to have used before.
So, your father's an exterminator?
No, why do you ask?
No reason.
A secret van disguised as something else. Great knowledge of high-tech spy equipment and the ability to sneak into places hiding in plain sight. That's exactly what we've seen Carl, Monogram's intern, do over the summer. Irving seems more proficient than Albert in all these fields, but both their skill sets perfectly match OWCA's requirements. In Moonfarm, Monster from the Aid, and Mission Marvel, for instance, it's Irving who's in charge of mission control and operates their machines. For being a regular kid without an impossibly high IQ like Phineas, Ferb, or Baljeet, he seems rather skilled in this field, doesn't he? And this is not a talent every kid would possess. Buford, for instance, wouldn't be able to do any of that. He also wouldn't feel like it.
Buford! Did the light just change from green to red?
Why should I tell you?
And the same would even go for Candace. So there's no question to be posed. Irving was already involved with the agency by the time the series began, and it's only thanks to it that he could stalk the boys ever since the first day of summer. How else would he even get his hands on motion sensors and countless spy cameras? You may wonder, why the heck would they even indulge him in this creepy endeavor of his? Is Irving's obsession really the best way for them to invest their money? Well, it actually is. You see, Irving wasn't simply trained by OWCA and just so happened to become Phineas and Ferb's friend accidentally. On the contrary, he was assigned to the family by OWCA itself. They sent him to spy on the boys. To what end, you may ask? Well, as we discussed, again, in my Jeremy theory, over the summer, the two stepbrothers have caught a lot of people's eyes, that's just facts, so it would be a big mistake to rule out the possibility of OWCA also noticing them. In fact, there's a whole episode in Season 2, Undercover Carl, where the intern is sent to investigate whether Phineas and Ferb might have some kind of affiliation with Dr. Doofenshmirtz. Between that, and them having connections to the place the boys get their blueprints from, it's crystal clear the agency is indeed aware of what they do. Now, OWCA might not even think of the two stepbrothers as possible threats or anything, but what they do is extremely impressive, and it could be a valuable asset to the agency. We know OWCA is interested in replicating Doofenators, more on that in a sec, so why not replicate Phineas and Ferb's physics-defying devices as well? But more importantly, if their inventions ever fell into the wrong hands, it would be disastrous for the organization. Or even worse, what if the boys will someday grow up to become evil like Dr. Doofenshmirtz? If their brilliant minds were ever used for evil, humanity would be downright screwed, so it would be smart to at least check on them from time to time, right? You'd think such a big secret organization would keep tabs on people like Phineas and Ferb, and I can assure you, they have. In fact, that's where Irving comes in. Think about it, the agency can't quite have Barry keep an eye on Phineas and Ferb, can it? He's too involved and is part of the family, hence why, when Carl went undercover, Monogram sent Agent P away on a wild goose chase. literally, to keep him busy so they could investigate their possible involvement with Dr. Doofenshmirtz undisturbed. So what better way to keep an eye on the boys than to send a kid to check on them? It wouldn't be a random child OWCA meets on the street, of course, but a kid who's part of their training programs and whose family is associated with the agency. He would be ideal for such a role. All things considered, only someone Phineas and Ferb's age could spend entire days with and around them without it being odd. Sending an adult or a secret agent would have been way too suspicious, not only to the boys, but even to Perry himself. OWCA can't have Agent P suspect they're spying on the boys by sending another animal agent there. He surely wouldn't like it and would definitely interfere. After all, the platypus has already done some pretty shady stuff behind Monogram and OWCA's backs before, both keeping Stacy's memories intact and making the boys assist him in the fight against the Normbots in the Second Dimension movie. He defied Monogram's direct orders. So this makes Irving the perfect undercover agent. Nobody would ever suspect a thing. At the end of the day, Carl too had to work his way up to his current unpaid intern position. Now, paid intern technically, though it's just a title. He initially worked at one of OWCA's animal shelters and was in charge of agent assignments, but eventually he got promoted. As far as we know, the guy was already working with the organization around the age of 13, and he probably started even sooner. Even Monogram himself was forced to enter the infamous academy by his family when he was just a child himself. It's like with Jedis, they gotta train you from a young age. Spying on the boys, keeping track of their doings on OWCA's behalf might be Irving's very first mission to eventually become an intern for Commander Carl. We do know it takes years to get there, and it's only in doing so, keeping track of Phineas and Ferb's every move, that Irving started to grow fond, oh no, I should probably say obsessed like a lunatic with the boys. He was a mere pawn in OWCA's plans, but eventually ended up being seduced by the coolness, as Candace calls it. He can keep obsessing over them as long as he does his job right, keeping the agency informed about their doings. To further confirm OWCA's interest in what the boys do, and to prove Irving was the one who did the dirty work for them, I should probably jog your memory about one key element of Phineas and Ferb's movie Across the Second Dimension. In it, we're told that Perry's fedora contains a secret auto-scan replication device used to scan all of Doof's innators, allowing OWCA to reverse engineer, replicate, and use them. But we also saw OWCA's technology replicate all of Phineas and Ferb's inventions in that movie as well, didn't we? Someone must have done the scanning for them, and Irving is their man, well, he's a creep they chose. I mean, sure, Agent P is around from time to time, and he could be the one who scanned some of those inventions. After all, he's probably aware they could come in handy in case of an emergency, which is what happened in the Second Dimension movie. But it's important to note that Phineas and Ferb's big ideas often end up disappearing before Perry comes back home. For instance, he wasn't even around for the platypus terrier or Meep's new spaceship, he never saw them, yet OWCA did have a way to replicate them. Who else but Irving, I wonder, could have been provided with another replication device, along with cameras and motion sensors to allow them to clone Phineas and Ferb's inventions? Think of the modified kiddie rides. OWCA could recreate them, even though they were enhanced away from their home, so away from a possible replication device hidden in the backyard, and without Perry around, ready to scan them with his hat. The only person involved with the organization we know for sure was around the boys' idea that day is Irving, since he was explicitly shown to own footage of that day's adventure in the episode of Phineas's birthday cliporama. But why don't we go the extra mile? Near the end of my theories, I like to really push it, so let's enter really convoluted territory. We figured out both Irving and Albert have ties to OWCA, so it's possible the whole Dubois family has them. And seeing how Major Monogram followed in his dad's footsteps, and how Carl's entire family has ties to the agency as well, it's pretty likely that one of Irving and Albert's parents currently works for the organization. Now, we've seen their mom in an episode, and there's nothing relevant to say about her, but we've never seen or even heard a thing about their dad, have we? So, is there any way for us to figure out who their dad is? Perhaps in an impossibly intricate and speculative way? Why, of course! Now, this is just a thought, but take a look at Irving's house seen in the episode Not Phineas and Ferb. And now take a look at Major Monogram's house seen in the episode Excalibur. That's a striking resemblance, isn't it? Yes, the color scheme is different, so they could be two houses in the same neighborhood with the same design. It's not uncommon. Except, these houses are a perfect one-to-one match, down to the plants on the porch, and even the bushes and trees nearby being shaped the exact same way. Couldn't this be the same house that, in universe, was simply repainted over the summer? And isn't it an interesting coincidence how we never knew or heard anything about Irving's dad, but at the same time, we never even saw Monogram's wife either? Their respective unexplored pieces of lore seem to dovetail into each other just perfectly. So what if Major Monogram was Irving's father? I know, it's crazy, and this house similarity is clearly just the animators reusing Irving's house model for Monogram to cut corners. Although that's one way to put it, but they could have picked literally any other secondary model for Monogram's house, like Jeremy's or Stacy's, but they went for Irving's specifically. And given how both Irving and Monogram have ties to OWCA, I'm starting to suspect this isn't a coincidence. Well, whatever, this can be the case, right? After all, Irving and Albert's last name is Dubois, not Monogram, so it can be. Although, I mean, this is an undercover mission where Perry must be completely in the dark about OWCA's intentions, again, to prevent the platypus from interfering. So what did you expect? A guy in an undercover mission going out there introducing himself with his real name? Please. If you went up to the boys saying, "Hi, I'm Irving Monogram, nice to meet you," don't you think Perry would raise an eyebrow, or two, or five, and suspect something was up? Of course, Irving would use a fake last name, and a pretty clever one at that, Dubois. You know, there's a season 4 episode, Imperfect Storm, that introduces a French landscape artist who, despite not being related to Irving, is also named Dubois. Yet, he cared to clarify that his last name is supposed to be pronounced Du Bois. Irving Du Bois. Deceptively simple, but a perfect cover name for his mission. This would make Monty Monogram Irving and Albert's brother, and Irving's mom would be Francis's wife. The 5 of them would be one big family. Say hi to the Monograms. Just like Monty, Irving and Albert have a great interest in OWCA's business. Irving was tasked to spy on the boys and eventually grew obsessed with them. Of course, he would know about the agency in the first place before the summer even began, simply because his father already works there. Hence why neither Irving nor Albert got their memories erased after the robot riot in the Second Dimension movie, unlike every other relevant character who was present during the battle. And with that, we've come full circle. Or maybe not. This is just a theory after all, a Phineas and Ferb theory. And cut. Let me know your thoughts on this theory, and of course, if you can think of some more evidence supporting it. Also, if you have some more theory ideas for the future, whether there's some little mystery you'd like me to explore, or if you have a concept for a theory with good potential we could work on, let me know in the comments. This is like my 7th theory, I think, and I might be very creative, but I will eventually run out of ideas, so if you want to give me some inspiration, I'd really appreciate it. I do have an idea for another one, but I'm not sure I have enough material for it, but we'll see. As always, I thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Ciao!